and highlight what exactly has changed. And you'll be able to go into your dashboards and see those changes reflected. So we're calling this version of the dashboards that has gone out 4.2. In case you're wondering where 4.1 went, we were in process of releasing 4.1 when we had a bunch of great ideas. And so those just transformed into 4.2. And those are the dashboards that have been released. This is what we're going to go over today. We're going to talk about some of the general updates that you'll see on all dashboards. So some functionality updates, some visual updates as far as legibility options and things, some high contrast pieces that we've added. There's a few of you that have asked for different pieces over the year and a half that I've been here. We haven't been able to address them all, but we have begun to address most of them with plans to shift our system to be able to address all of them. So hopefully you'll see things here that you're like, oh, I asked for that. I'm excited about it. But we'll do general upgrades, local assessment dashboard enhancements, and then state test dashboard enhancements. And we'll talk about what that looks like. All right. These are the two people on our team that are most responsible for the work that you're seeing today. We have a senior data scientist named Jessica, who is unbelievably talented. She has incredible tenacity. Once a problem's been laid out before her, she will figure out a way to solve it. And she surprises me every day with something new that she's done or learned or implemented. And you'll see that work in the dashboards. Minji, I already bragged on her a little bit. I love bragging on my team because I think they're incredible. And I'm coming to realize that the future of Parsec is female. Ladies here are kicking butt in an incredible way. So first and foremost of the additions, the changes that have been made, although some of you had seen this because we had some staggered rollout of things. The old dashboards were using a 12-point Montserrat font, or 12 pixel, not even 12 point. And it was in these little like rounded filters, and it was hard to read even when at full screen. And so what we did is we actually increased the size, we squared those out, and we switched the font to make it more legible. And then what else you'll see is in things like the test site dropdown, it used to be dark blue with like black text, I think. And we've changed that to where it's white font. And so the high contrast makes it more visible. It's actually a compliance thing for ADA stuff to have that high contrast visibility. So we have Morgan, who you guys haven't met. Again, the future of Parsec is female, who works on the visual aspect of our dashboards and making sure that we're as user-friendly as possible and compliant as well. So pretty and compliant kind of meeting together. Another thing that you'll see in all dashboards is that when you're inside of a dashboard and you have the navigation menu to different reports within the dashboard on the left, it's now going to be highlighted when you click on that dashboard. And some of you are our newer partners. You're like, I've always seen that. That's all I've ever seen. But this is a new thing that is been present for the last 3 months, but officially released in 4.2 to everyone. One thing I will recommend is there's going to be a temptation to want to click on these little arrows. They won't do anything for you. You'll want to click on the font. That's the link, the text, to get to that report. So I've had people text, hey, I click on this arrow and nothing happens. Just make sure that you click on the text. Those arrows are just kind of there for aesthetic, and then also to keep us aligned with that highlight so we know this is the report that I'm on. And there's a reason that that is more important than ever. So we have 2 new buttons on the page that are above where your school name will be in the top right-hand corner of any of your Parsec Go dashboards. And that is a reset filters button and a download PDF button. We'll get back to the download PDF. The reset filters is really important. And the reason the reset filters is really important is, let's say that you've gone through the filters and you're done looking at your 4th grade socioeconomically disadvantaged students, and you forget to reselect all instead of just the socioeconomically disadvantaged students, and you now start looking at students with disabilities. A lot of times people forget like a filter that they've left selected. And so this is a full reset. You click on that button, it's going to wipe all the filters and it's going to let you start from scratch. That used to be a function that was possible outside of the system in its like native environment outside of the Parsec Go platform. It's now been brought in. And so you just click that little button, it resets the whole page to its standard filters. That's going to help with data quality over time. Just when I'm going to a new theme or new group of students, I'm just going to reset filters and start again. It's going to be supremely helpful. Now, when I talked back here about the highlighting what page I'm on, it's because of this thing that says download PDF. Now, this has always been possible. Again, it was kind of an outside the platform, outside of Parsec Go in Looker Studio that it was available. Now it's within the platform itself. You can click on the download PDF button. It looks more like a link at the top is what it looks like, but you can click on that and it's going to pull up this window that you see right here. And you have the opportunity to select all pages, but unless you're very specific partners who have requested some specific filter features, you're going to want to skip the all pages function and go to the select pages. And that highlighted piece, as well as the title of the report that you're on, is going to be the page that you want to select. It's going to download the visuals, the page that you're on, with whatever filters you have selected. Now, it's not, I'll show you a picture here. This is what it looks like when it's downloaded. So it's downloading the whole thing at very high resolution. It's downloading it at, what's the word I'm looking for? I used to be in print and marketing, vector. It's a vector artwork. So it's this high resolution. You can actually magnify as much as you want and you'll never find a pixel. It's pretty cool and it'll never lose its fidelity. Now, where that becomes really useful outside the platform is if you're wanting to use this information or a visual on, let's say, some sort of more formal communication, you can take this downloaded PDF and it will retain all of its editable elements in Illustrator or Canva. And so I can grab a high resolution image here and I can change a color, I can change a font, I can change a placement. It really gives you the freedom then, if you're working with someone internally or externally for formal communication and you want to pull some of this data in a more flexible fashion, that's the way to do it. My preference still when I'm building presentations for our partners is always screenshots. I adore screenshots. I do them a lot. If you're on Mac, it's Command-Shift-4 or 5. 5 lets you control the size of the box a little bit more intricately. If you're on Windows, it's Windows-Shift-S, gives you the snippet tool. Both of those are incredibly useful as you're pulling the data here from these platforms. And we're also expanding some other pieces that we have to just give you presentation-ready reports that break down some of this data. All right, so the next piece. This is one that specifically ties back to Melissa at IEM, and this is Jessica's exceptional work. It's something that's available specifically for iReady, and it can be made available for NWEA and potentially Renaissance. We just haven't had the requests, and all of the updates that you're going to see today come from some sort of partner request or a bulk of them, because sometimes there's like one-off requests that we'll do for one person, but these are things that have been requested enough that we begin to implement them system-wide. And what that is when I go into iReady specifically in this case, I now have access to seeing the domain level data. So I can go into reading and I can click on phonological awareness and it's going to show me the overall results for phonological awareness. And then by grade level, I can do that for reading and then again for math in those domains. Just a little tidbit for any of you iReady users out there, the 2 domains that tend to be the lowest scoring, reading comprehension, informational text, and geometry. Those tend to be the lowest scoring respectively in each of those reading and math. From what I've seen, your system may be different, but now you can tell. Now you can go see. If you see something here that maybe you're an NWEA or a Renaissance user and you're like, hey, we'd like to see that, please let us know. We will take your flood of requests and do our best to implement them system-wide for NWA and Renaissance if there's something that you would like to see done. The next thing that's also in local assessment stuff is the correlation analysis has been expanded. Why that's important is because I've always loved the correlation analysis tool, but it's always been missing one thing that I really wanted it to have, because I can look at all these dots that represent students and I can see where they're at in comparison to, where they're at. Do they meet the third grade standard and miss the, on the state test and miss it on the local assessment? Did they meet them both? I can find those outliers, but I wasn't able to tell who that student was. It just gave me a student ID. So now what we've done is we've given you the ability to click on a dot, and it can be on the ELA or the math side. And when you click on that dot, it's going to isolate that student down here in a little student list. So now not only do I see the outlier visually, I now know who the outlier is, right? Because those outlying things, so a student who maybe performed really high on the local assessment and really low on the state assessment, I want to find out why. Those are students that helps us begin to move from the satellite data up high and start to have those relational capital building conversations that do impact students over time. So this allows you to do that. And so isolating the math scores lets you see how that does as well. So you just see their English and their math, and then it tells you who the student is. It's really helpful on this report. Make sure I didn't miss anything. This is what it looks like up close. Just to get a little bit better visual. This has a scroll bar to it, and you can export these results, but you can see who the student is. This student that we're looking at in particular, I don't know what grade they're in, third grade. They scored really high on the local assessment and just barely above the standard. It looks like maybe on the state assessment, but they were, as you can see up here, completely correlated, right? That's why the correlation analysis is helpful. The next thing that we've updated is the matched cohort analysis. There's not any new feature here, but we used to have 2 matched cohort analysis reports within the local assessment dashboard. We had one that was within a single year and one that was year over year. Again, Jessica worked some voodoo magic behind the scenes and was able to get those combined. So where this is useful and what this actually looks like. When I go into my local assessment dashboard and I look at the trend analysis, I'm at the basic level when I'm just looking at it without having touched any filters. It's default selected to this all student results. What that means is I'm looking at all the students who took the fall assessment, all the students who took the winter assessment, all the students who took the spring assessment, but not all the students who took the fall and the spring, or the fall and the winter. So the matched cohort's really important because that's going to give you a more accurate view of your student population that has had an actual length of time with you, and you can see growth. And so there's an orange filter on that page. We like to highlight that filter so you know it's a thing that's important on that page. And now I can look at a fall to winter cohort, a winter to spring cohort, my favorite, a fall to spring cohort. I can look spring to fall. So I can look at where students placed before the summer and after the summer. I can go fall to see where the same students, matched students, placed at the beginning of last year and at the beginning of this year. And I can do that for the different windows. So you see that there's within a year, fall to winter, winter to spring, and fall to spring within a single, school year. And then these ones that say year over year next to them are matched students from a previous year. And it's single select. You'll only be able to look at one of those at a time. Just otherwise the math gets kind of funky on the back end and the results aren't as accurate. And just a little piece of advice. See how we have all students selected and the number of valid scores here is 30,005. See, it's an odd number. Whenever you're looking at a matched cohort, it should always be an even number. It should always be an even number. So that's a good way for you to even do data quality checking on us. If you're like, hey, I am looking at matched cohort and I don't have any of the other like student groups selected, which can throw off the evenness of the number. But I'm looking at matched cohort and I'm seeing an odd number. Why is that? It's a good question to ask. All right. The next thing that we've added, and it's actually going to be supplanted in not too long of a time. So get used to it, get comfortable with it, and then it's going to be expanded on. This is a matched cohort year over year change in distance from standard. So students going from 3rd to 4th grade, what their delta distance from standard was if they were with you last year and this year. It's within a district, within a charter system. That's what it's measuring. It's just with you. 3rd to 4th, 4th to 5th, 5th to 6th. Now, this is temporary because what we've implemented in the background that we're going to be then putting in the dashboards is called a percent towards proficiency, which is taking it's weighting it differently because there's different score, like scales, I guess, at each grade level. So you have to weigh them, and we're converting it to a growth percentage to give you a true growth measurement. This was rudimentary to fill a void. And then while we were in process of this, Eugene had one of his brilliant ideas in like a brain blast moment for anyone who ever watched Jimmy Neutron, and came up with that. So this is here for now. You'll be seeing the percent towards proficiency be released in the not too distant future, where it's a true growth metric. But this is a good starter to my group students increasing in DFS as they go from one grade level to the next, one grade level to the next. And this is what it looks like up close. So you can see that 3rd to 4th grade, on average, the students lost distance from standard, and 4th to 5th, they gained. 5th to 6th, they significantly lost. 6th to 7th, they gained. And again, this is matched. This means they were with me last year and this year. And you can look at this for different stretches of a year time, all the way back to 2014-15, when the state test was introduced. Now that translates to something that's my favorite new thing. And again, this was a Jessica idea. I don't know if she just dreams about this stuff and comes up with it, but this is my favorite. So what's happening here is this is the distance from standard change, but at a student list level. And so now I can look and I can see an individual student and see their change from last year. And for those of you who might be new to the system, who are still learning things, when you have a table like this in our dashboards, you can click on a column title and it will rearrange the column or the whole table according to that column, high to low or low to high, A to Z or Z to A is what you would see in like a Google Sheets. And so like on this next page, I went to our Parsec Academy or Parsec Academy dashboard, and I filtered to show the biggest drops at the top from last year to this year. And this is so cool to me because now I know that this student, whose name is I'm a Korok 1449 for privacy reasons, any Zelda fans might recognize some Koroks there from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. But this student was at a -31 distance from standard last year in ELA, and this year they're at a -292. Now, why is that important? I can almost guarantee you that that's not purely academic. That student might just need to be seen. And data, lagging data, big data, students get lost in the mixed data, just gave you the ability to see that student in a way you may not have before. And that's the way that we actually start to make big changes in our systems, is when we start to be able to engage on that level with students. One day I'll tell you guys my story in education, how this would have changed my life. But this is really cool. So I can export this sheet. So in our dashboards, whenever you hover over a table, you'll see this little menu pop up right here. It's a little bit finicky because it's appear on hover, but you go up to it and you click this little 3 dot and we'll show you exactly what that looks like at the end. And I can export this data to Google Sheets or Excel. And all of a sudden I'm cooking with fire because I can now parse this out to different teachers, to different administrators, to different principals, to whomever, different program leaders. And they can be aware of their students, and we can begin engaging with those conversations, right? Okay, so this next piece is similar but different. So when a student comes into your system, and they take the state test with you, you have access to all of their historic state test data, right? For the entirety of their system. This was really asked from us by a high school district. High school districts, they're islands of data, right? And you guys may have experienced this in one way or another because people come into your system and you have no idea what the story was before they got to you, right? But high school districts in particular are just islands, right? They get their 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade data, and really they only get 11th grade data for a state test. What this allows you to do is see a student's entire history of the state test, no matter where they were before they were with you. So I went into the student name section. You can do this by local ID. I made sure the current school was Parsec Academy, right? And I clicked on this student, and it's showing me this student's progress or scores over time, even before they were with me. Because you can see for 11th grade in 2022-23, they were with Parsec Academy. That's me now. But before that, they were with Datazella University at, Datazell, whatever that is. That's the old Parsec name, but for this case, it's a different school system. And so I can see what their whole history is now. And I can sort this by, socioeconomic disadvantage. I can sort this by enrollment length. I believe it works additively too, if you're not looking at a specific student, but Jessica can answer that question in the text. But enrollment length is always considering their most current year backwards. So if you want to see, just this, you want to narrow the student names down to students who've been with you for 3 or 4 years, something along those lines. I don't know if you guys saw the Credo report out of Stanford, but it showed that for charter systems that students, there's a dip in the first year in particular, and it takes them sometimes up to 4 years to get up to speed again because of that transition. And then they tend to actually grow at an accelerated rate in comparison. So that 3 and 4 year mark is really important in that capacity. So that's here for you. That's cool. We got 6 minutes, and I think I'm close to the end. And this is what it looks like up close. And again, you have, for every student, I believe, who's ever been with you, you have this data, right? And so you can just adjust the academic year. You can adjust the test sites. You can adjust enrollment length, the different, socioeconomically, the different student group filters, and it's going to give you that information. And so it's the closest you'll get to just, I know actually Melissa asked for something like this at one point, just seeing student progress over time, individual student. And so this is the first visual in the dashboards that really accounts for that thing that you had asked or talked about, Melissa, at IEM. So I feel like maybe, Melissa, you may have been the one who spurred or got us thinking about a bunch of this stuff. So thank you. All right. So the next thing that I want to go over is something that's not new, but I want to make sure that everyone knows how to do it. And that is exporting raw data from the dashboards. And we talked a little bit about it, but when you hover over different parts of the dashboard, different graphs, different tables, you'll see these little icons tend to pop up. Boom. What do those icons mean? What are they there for? Some of you know how to use them. Some of you aren't so familiar. Some of you are like, I used it and I didn't get the data that I wanted. All those things are things that I hear. So sometimes when you hover over a graph or a number or something, you won't see this little 3-dot icon. You will see these two. And there's not much you can do with those that's actually going to affect what's going on. This one just tells you it's optimized speed-wise, and I think this one lets you kind of reorganize the data, A to Z or Z to A. But this one right here is the most important. So you click on that, and it'll give you like an options menu, and one of them is export. And then when you click export, you get this that pops up. And what I usually do here is I'll change the name of something. So let's say I'm looking at that piece that we were looking at, the distance from standard delta for each student. And I'm pulling up my 4th grade students, and I've got the list organized high to low or low to high, because we also want to look at the students who had the highest gain, because we want to learn how to repeat that. It's not just, this student might be struggling. It's like, this student's really succeeding. But let's say I'm looking at that for fourth grade. I'll just change the title to fourth grade Delta DFS. And, if there's any other filters I selected, I put that in there. And then I export to Google Sheets and it puts it right into a Google Sheet and I'm ready to use that. I can share that. Keep it on. It'll start on restricted if you're in Google. Keep it on restricted because it is personally identifiable information, and only share it with people who are in your system that you trust. Because again, taking that student list stuff, that is personally identifiable information. Okay. The last thing that we'll talk about here real quick is very small. This was actually one of Minji's earliest tasks as an intern that I gave her. And we were just looking through the graduation data together. And I was like, I didn't realize that those pieces were in there. We tried really hard to do an actual combined 4- and 5-year adjusted cohort graduation rate, because that's what's aligned to the California School Dashboard. But the math wasn't quite working out. I promise you, we'll keep thinking about it and figure out a way to do it. I know that Visions in Education, which is a charter in Sacramento, figured out a way to work for them, but the math wasn't translating to every system. And we weren't sure why, and we weren't able to quite figure it out. But what Minji did is she brought in filters to the graduation dashboard. For those of you who have graduation dashboards, you have K through 12. If you don't, we missed you somehow. Send me a all caps lock email telling me that I need to get my act together, and we'll get there for you. But this allows us to look at the graduates and those who are still enrolled. You can actually go by category too and look at those who have received the seal of biliteracy. And if you look at the next page, those who had UC CSU requirements met. So it's our first little bit of drop in a big ocean towards thinking about college and career readiness stuff. We're thinking about it. We have no idea what we're going to do. It's kind of the Shangri-La of tracking anything right now, and every system tracks it a little bit differently. But here you can see for your graduating students, if they met the CSU and UC requirements, or if they have received the seal of biliteracy. And if you click on cohort category, which is not new, you can look at this for those who are still enrolled, who should be part of your 5th year cohort. I think maybe those who dropped out. I'm not exactly sure everyone in the cohort off the top of my head, but those are all the things that are new. And I'm pretty excited about them. We obviously have a lot of things that we're working on elsewhere. Some of you have heard about them, some of you have seen them. But I really think we're at a place where we're starting to see more clearly students. And because our heart is always to go from the 20,000-foot view to seeing a student whose life is changed, right? And I think we're doing our best to take those indicators that the state requires of us and start bringing it down to the individual student level and helping us see them. So thank you guys. If there was anything here that you saw that you have more questions about, or that you didn't see that you have questions about, please feel free to contact me. I think you all have my email. It's ryan@parseceducation.com. You can email me for now, and I'll filter it to the right team member. We're going to have some changes there too. We'll let you guys know about, but thank you guys for being here. Have a wonderful day. Star, give me the thumbs up if we're good to be done. We're right at 1:30, and I think we covered everything.
You're right. Please, everybody who joined us today, expect an email with the recording, and then we are gathering any questions that we didn't get a chance to answer, so that way you have your answers. Again, thank you so much. Bye-bye.